I am up and my face is what? My face is, I don't even want to say. Carol, what do you do when you've got one person, never mind, this is too much for 8 o'clock. I was gonna ask you for sex advice, Carol. It was the Sex Pistols stuff that got me going. I'm like, maybe I should ask you for sex advice later. Carol's a lesbian. Lesbians have really good sex advice. Public. What? Oh, yeah. This is the album that I just played for you.
That's a super close-up.
Isn't that awesome? That's really perfect. You know? It's Public Image Limited, which is Johnny Lydon from the Sex Pistols band after he left. And actually, that whole album, second edition, is just an amazing. You guys, they think they invented electronica. Yeah. These kids today. It's like, man, we had electronica when the computers only had one neuron in their heads, you know? When there was one neuron in every computer. They still made awesome kick-ass electronica. Come on, that was at least as good as any of the glitch stuff you have heard in the last 5 years. Come on. All right, so what am I doing? I've got this here as if I have a plan, Carol. as if I actually have a plan for tonight's show. Listen. We have 25 minutes, and the phone lines are open, 996-6775. You're more than welcome to attack me on any of this stuff or talk to me or anything. It really helps me decide to keep doing the show, monkeys, when we get the occasional phone call. I know. They're like, well, what am I supposed to call about? What are you talking about? You're not talking about anything. I'm talking about stuff. I know. Okay, so let's get right to it. Can we put up number 7, Carol? Bev Perdue is gone. It happened right after last week's show. Took everybody by surprise, but come on. The fact that she has really screwed the Democratic Party. I mean, a lot of people are like, at first, oh, this is good for the Democrats. I'm like, really? The top Democrat in the state, kind of leaves suddenly with no warning to even her staff, and we're supposed to take this as like, no, this is good for the party. No, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So anybody, with a mental age over 5 who cares about North Carolina politics, and that's a small group. That's a limited number. Lots of people with a mental age over 5 that care about like the minutia of Democratic Party and Republican Party politics, North Carolina politics. Yeah, that's a small group. They know that this is a bad thing for the Democrats, right? It's just that doesn't take any brains to figure out. The key, though, to me, is what was she thinking in like November? Is it really just the poll numbers showing her losing? I mean, poll numbers this far out are pretty, they're iffy. You can't tell for sure. Come on, really? Poll numbers in January related to November's election? Come on. No, something else is going on here. What was she thinking in November? What was the trigger that, I think she just didn't want to deal with it anymore. I don't know. I don't think it was just so simple as, I can't win. I think she just didn't want to deal with it anymore. And it feels like a really blunt personal decision, doesn't it? I don't know. There's the phone number. Call me. Although those yellows and this yellow, remind me never to wear a yellow shirt again, Carol. But I don't know. It just, when did she make the actual decision? Was she really running so scared of Pat McCrory, that spoiled little rich kid from Charlotte? Really? What? No, I think something else is going on here, monkeys. I think something else is going on. She said it was a personal something that she wasn't going to talk about.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that great quote. Well, thanks for that. So she said it was personal.
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, that's good to know. I guess I should pay closer attention to what comes out of Bev Perdue's mouth. I think she could have been so much better. She could have been so much better. So she's changed her story, Carol.
That was the very first quote I heard.
No. Her story was, I want to fight for education. Now you're saying she says there's something personal?
Yeah, why should we step it down? But yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I think, Carol, I don't think that's, I haven't heard that quote, but I'd love to see it. But I don't know. It seems something's very odd. Oh, okay. All right. Maybe it is true. But the key to me is that she's really left the party in a lurch. What kind of person does that? What kind of person does that to your own party? Had she done it in October, had she done it earlier, I mean, this is basic stuff. You know, they would have had more time to prepare, blah, 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 blah. And now people have got to scramble, which I kind of like, Carol, because the scrambling is part of the test. Can you scramble together enough money to run a campaign really fast, right? That's part of the test. All right, so I kind of think that, you know, Pat McCrory is probably sitting pretty and the Republicans are coasting, you know, but at this point, I think they're crazy if they think this is over. I think they're absolutely crazy if they think this is over. All right, can we do the next one, Carol, which is the David Price thing? This one really, really bugs me. It is the most graceless move I have ever seen a politician do in North Carolina. I'll say a Democratic politician. No, that's not true because it's John Edwards. God dang it, he sets the bar so high, Carol. This is really graceless, and it's a sad, graceless end to David Price's career. And this is really, we're seeing the tail end of David Price's career. Is there anybody in the Democratic Party in North Carolina that isn't looking at David Price right now and going, you really just effed up in terms of long-term respect for your legacy? Forget Bev Perdue's legacy. What's David Price's legacy going to be? Golden opportunity to end his 25 almost years, 26 years of service with 2 years missing when he got complacent and got beat by a drunk Republican sheriff who'd never really held any kind of higher office before. Yeah, remember Heinemann? Yeah, okay, so leaving that episode apart from in David Price's career, you know, you had 24 years and the Republicans win in your home state and redistrict, so you at 70-something and Brad Miller at 58, who's a tough fighter for the causes that you say. David Price says, well, we agree on almost everything, which is a lie. Brad Miller's much, much more progressive than David Price and a much better fighter. That's key. The stakes are different now. The politics is different now. We need somebody strong and not scared to really get out there ahead of the pack. If there's one thing you can say about David Price, it's that he rarely gets ahead of the pack. When has David Price actually been ahead of public opinion? No, seriously, like out there on an issue. So, you got this young guy coming up. You knew this was happening. The Republicans were going to redistrict. You can argue that Brad Miller wrote his own district back 10 years ago and that this is payback, whatever, but David Price shouldn't be making that argument. David Price, at 70-something years old, after 25 years in the United States House of Representatives, should have taken this opportunity to say, it is time. Duke University would offer him a $150,000 professor position in a heartbeat. Right, Carol? David Price would have no problem finding a job. He's got his pension. He's got the best health insurance any American's ever going to get because he was an elected official in the U.S. Congress. What a completely graceless move. And yes, I'm going to be ageist and say at his age, to not look, forget age, I'm sorry. I'm going to take that back, Carol. With his experience, to not look at what's happening in the United States House and the United States Senate and the United States in general, and to say, I've got, I think Brad Miller's 58, I've got a younger, and you know, what, 58 is the new 17, right, Carol? I mean, that's really where this country's going. You know, it takes us to 30 to become adults now in America, right? So me, you know, I'm at 48, Carol. I still haven't gotten there. So, you know, David Price should have, you know, any intelligent person, David Price, would have looked at the political landscape of America and said, I've got this 58-year-old who's got fire in his eyes, already in the House of Representatives. The district is tailor-made to keep him there. I've been there for 25 years. I'm kind of a mild-mannered guy. I'm not really the, you know, fire in your eyes type. And David Price, you have no argument against that. Everybody knows it's true. I'm not going to use the word milquetoast. I'm not going to throw that out there. That would be unfair. But when was the last time you, David Price, were ahead of the curve on something? Carol, can you put up the blogs? I think it's number 10, maybe. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. Carol has something to interject. Did you turn on your microphone?
No, but I'm just going to pop on here.
Okay. All right. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come here. This is Carol. In case you've never seen Carol.
I don't need to be in the shot. I can just sit over to the side.
Here's
So
your mic. Here's your
no,
mic.
I got one. Oh no, it's not on. So okay. Okay, so I'm off camera. So it was WRAL that gave me the misinformation of there were a lot of personal reasons involved in this decision that I'll never discuss in public. That
was her. Yeah. Well. Okay, all right, that makes sense. There are a lot of personal reasons that I'll never discuss in public, like primarily like I'm tired of this crap. I think that's probably, I think we can all agree that Bev Perdue was tired of all this crap and decided not to run for a second term.
But the New York Times and both News and Observer had the other reasons that you said.
Okay, the New York Times, all right, so I mean, yeah, okay, all right, fair enough. Yeah, I don't think that it didn't seem to me that Bev Perdue had been really coming clean about the personal, whatever personal reasons that she'd had. Okay, so Bev Perdue aside, David Price bungled this opportunity, and I think at this point there's not a Democratic, and if you are a Democratic donor who encouraged David Price to stay because he's a buddy of yours and discouraged Brad Miller, then you are a Democratic donor with your head up your ass. That's just a fact. It's scientifically proven. To look at the field and to look at where America is today and to look at where David Price has been and is going and look at where Brad Miller has been and is going and to say as a major Democratic donor, I think David Price deserves to stay, you have your head up your ass. You don't know America. You don't look around and see what's going on. Anybody who said that to David Price with Brad Miller waiting in the wings and said, Brad Miller, you just do something else, that was an idiot. So, and I have problems with Brad Miller. Brad Miller's not perfect, but Carol, Brad Miller is much more progressive than David Price, especially on financial issues, trade issues, all kinds of things. Is Brad Miller going to run for governor? I don't want Brad Miller as our governor, although actually I kind of do. But I'd rather have him in the U.S. Congress in a safe seat where we've got somebody who, he introduces bills, Carol, right? Introduces bills to regulate the financial industry tighter. I'm kind of being vague. I forget exactly the bills. But I've got my plan right here, right? But I can't even read my own handwriting. But here's a classic example. This one's at Down with Tyranny, at blogspot.com. If you Google David Price, Brad Miller, Down with Tyranny, you'll see, and I'm using Google in the small g, like any search engine you like term. You know, Google doesn't own that word anymore. Sorry, Google. If you search for David Price, Brad Miller, Down with Tyranny, you'll see a really sharp post from last November from a left-wing, one of my favorite left-wing blogs, sharp, smart political blog, that details all the differences between Brad Miller and David Price. According to Down with Tyranny, David Price voted for that awful bankruptcy bill back in 2005, I think it was, that made it harder for middle-class people to get out from under their debt at the behest of the banks. And and made it impossible for student loan debt to ever be forgiven under bankruptcy proceedings. David Price voted for that, Brad Miller voted against it. Down with Tyranny goes through a number of these things. I think it's despicable that David Price didn't have the grace. And Carol, this is me talking about grace in politics. Well, I'm not in elected office. I don't have to stand up for what I believe. You guys do. No, okay, I'm not Mr. Grace myself, but I recognize gracelessness when I see it. And I think David Price should be ashamed of himself for not taking this opportunity, this moment, and saying, I've had a really good run. There's a guy with fire in his stomach right there, right? I'm going to hand this seat over to him, and I know America will be in a better place. David Price should be ashamed, and anyone who encouraged him to stay and Brad Miller not to stay should also be ashamed. The Democratic Party just shot itself in North Carolina, just shot itself in the head by shoving Brad Miller aside. Now, Carol, if Brad Miller decides to run for governor, we have a real race. You know? We have a real race. We have somebody who's at least probably as liberal as you can get in national politics. This would be a fascinating race, right? Brad Miller could use that little bit of overlap. Actually, I think there's a lot of overlap between the Occupy people and the right-wing Tea Party people, that anti, not rich, not corporate, but anti-elite. Right? The people that want to protect everything they have and don't give a crap about anybody else. Brad Miller could really, really use that. And we need somebody to start doing that. David Price is completely ineffectual on financial issues. He really is. He's presided for 20 years over, America getting more and more and more and more conservative. When has he ever really, really, really stood up and faced full on a wave of conservative attacks on financial issues and fought back? When? I don't think he ever has. All right. Hi, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, this is Les, a Democrat. I want to talk to you about these folks. What's going on?
Okay.
David Price has an ego. Everybody in politics does. It's a snake pit. Why would you run for office if you weren't power hungry and had an ego?
He's been there for 25 years.
Oh, I agree. He's a has-been. I'd rather Brad do it, but I understand why David didn't. I'm on the board of the Democratic Men, and he came and spoke to us recently, and I could tell he was tired, he was stumbling, missing some of his points. And
why wouldn't you use this as an opportunity to bow out with grace?
I agree totally. And Brad is great. He's a policy wonk, like you said. I don't agree with him on everything, but he really gets into the minutia, the details, and does it thoroughly. And, you can count on him to do a good job with whatever.
And he has guts.
Right.
David Price is not a fighter.
Brad is like you. He has lots of guts, but no grace.
What? He's the one who just bowed out gracefully. Come on, that's not fair. No, but he's willing to stand up and say, this is wrong. And he votes his convictions. Where David Price has been there so long, he's part of that give and take and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but I just say, if David runs, he'll win, but it'll be the same old, same old. He won't do anything special.
David Price could change the history of North Carolina by saying, you know what? I've had second thoughts. Brad Miller, he is such a good candidate. He needs to go in there, and I'm out. Well, how much more time in the House do you need, David Price? How many more years do you want?
David could go back and teach political science at Duke. He could be some sort of professor emeritus or whatever and do a damn good job.
I said 150 grand. Duke would offer him 200 grand in a heartbeat.
Right,
Right. Come on, you know that's true.
The gubernatorial thing, the one thing you haven't raised about the governor thing, they're still after Bowles to get in. They want Erskine Bowles to run.
He's worse than David Price.
That's what I thought you would say.
The Democrats are thinking seriously about running the man who just led a commission that said we need to make drastic cuts in the benefits that poor people receive in Social Security or America is going to fail. That's Erskine Bowles, right? Drastic cuts in Social Security.
They think he can beat McCrory. He has enough respect from independents and Republicans, maybe even, that he might beat McCrory.
And the business community likes him, maybe, but
yeah,
I think that would be a huge mistake.
And in a way, I don't blame Bev. You know, she's tired. She's 65. She's got grandkids. Remember, McCrory almost beat her in 2008 when Democrats were on a roll, you know, with Obama's coattails and everything. I don't blame her for not going through it again. But I don't really know who the best person is.
She knew it would be hard, and I don't think she realized she had a bunch of she realized she didn't have much support.
What do you know about Bill Faison? I don't know much about him. He seems to be the more liberal of the people that are running so far. Faison and this, who's the lieutenant governor? Dalton.
Yeah, no, I haven't looked closely at any of them in years.
Yeah,
Dalton, I looked at before, but when they declare and things start heating up, you know, I'll start paying attention.
Those two have already declared. Dalton and Faison have already declared.
All right.
But people are still trying to get Bowles in. I mean, in the article in the paper every day, you see, Erskine, please run. You know, so I don't know.
So wait. Dalton has declared?
Yeah.
Oh, I missed that. Okay.
Dalton and Faison, yeah.
See, this is what happens when
I don't know much about Faison. He's from Orange County. He's probably pretty good, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's too early to tell.
David
it's too
has
early.
an ego, and Bev is tired. That's kind of the bottom line, I think.
Yeah. Well,
and we don't want Bowles. I agree with you on that.
Well, Bowles would be a disaster. He's another dinosaur. He's a dinosaur. He lost and lost again, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you know, he's just a dinosaur. And this whole Social Security thing where he's part of this supposedly very serious person's committee where they looked at, and you know, so we can't raise taxes on the rich, but what we can do is make sure that poor people get fewer benefits from the Social Security system going forward. Thanks, Erskine Bowles.
I don't know that there would be much difference between Bowles and McCrory, to tell you the honest truth. There wouldn't be much difference. A party label might be the only difference, really.
Well, I mean, there probably on social issues there'd be a huge difference, but Bowles is not a fighter.
Yeah,
Bowles is not what we need.
Well, why don't you run? Hey, you're a fighter.
Yeah, right. You know, what was it? Who was it? It was George Clooney. Not to compare myself with George Clooney, because I have more head showing than George Clooney did. But George Clooney just was asked, I think it was by Esquire, about going into politics, and his answer was so perfect it made me laugh out loud. You know,
what did he say?
Seriously, LOL. He said, "Have you looked at politics lately? Why?" Something like, I'm paraphrasing. Why would anybody want to go into that?
I agree.
And I'm like, oh, genius. It's crooks and liars. That's it.
Yeah, power and ego.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad somebody else who knows about the Democrats agrees with me about David Price. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Good show.
Yeah, thanks.
See you.
No, I haven't been following Dalton. Who's Dalton? I seem to vaguely recall him from before when he ran for when he was lieutenant governor. But I'm sorry. I'm so fed up with the whole political process that it's really difficult for me to pay close attention to this. I will try on the governor's race. Bev has made it. Okay, yeah, 3.5 minutes. Bev has made it essential for me now to start thinking about the governor's race. But McCrory, what a jerk. Okay, so. We'll see, though. The Republicans are riding high. Don't you love it when they ride high and then get cut down? Watch. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Come on, Brad. Come on, David Price. Do the right thing. So, the Susan B. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, turns out, is run by a bunch of right-wingers. The sister, Susan B. Komen's sister, who's now the CEO, who stepped up to the CEO just last year. If you go to opensecrets.org, you can track her donations. I forget her name, but if you go to my Twitter feed, I link to a page where you can just type in her name and Texas, and you'll get all of her donations. And all she donates to is right-winger. Yeah. Say that 3 times fast. So what's happened is that they changed their rules so that to deliberately exclude Planned Parenthood from eligibility for their grants. 2 minutes? Okay. And last year, the Susan B. Komen Foundation gave Planned Parenthood $580,000 in grants. And these didn't go to abortion. They went, this is a right-wing attack, just like the Acorn attack, which they were successful at. We can't let them succeed. Well, guess what? They're not succeeding. Komen gave Planned Parenthood $580,000 last year. In the last 24 hours, Planned Parenthood says they've gotten $400,000 in new donations. One big one, what was it, $250,000 from someone, Carol? But still, that's another $150,000 in individual donations just in 24 hours. We can do this. We can keep going. Planned Parenthood is under ongoing, constant, consistent attack. They are never going to let up. That means you and I need to dig in, and boy, it hurts, I know, and regularly donate to Planned Parenthood. Regularly make it a part of your donation. Just don't even think twice about it, because the opponents are regularly figuring out ways to screw over Planned Parenthood. Every day they're thinking about new ways to screw over Planned Parenthood. And they've been bugging the Komen folks for a long time about this. So we have to step up too. And it's working. We're winning this one, it looks like, right? So keep it up. You have to remember, they give us so few clear cases to root for these days, those of us who are progressives, that when you see a clear case that's easy to root for, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta dig in and do it. So, all right. Anyway, there's another show, half-assed monkey time, politics, opinions. We'll see you next week, right? You like it. You do. You admit it. Admit it. Come on, admit it. You like it a little.